Hello, everybody. This is Earl Sewell here, and I'm, writing this wonderful evening. And I did a live stream earlier, and shortly after that, someone asked a question, and they said, basically, they say, "Hi, Earl. We are friends on social media. I follow you on Facebook and YouTube. The question is, I'm interested in becoming a writer, but I don't know how to go about doing so. May I please ask you for advice on pursuing this goal?" And so someone is asking, about the writing life or becoming an author. So I then said, "Well, tell me your specific question." They said, "Thank you so much, but I would really love for someone to read my work. How do I know who to trust and to send my work to?" Okay, so there's the question. I really want someone to read my work, and how do I know who to trust and to send my work to? This sounds like a very classic young, new, and also nervous writer. And that happens to all of us. I know when I first started out, I was very protective of my work. I didn't want anyone to read it. I, held it close to my chest. Uh, but what I soon learned is if I hold on to the writing, then no one ever gets to experience it. No one ever gets to say, "Wow, what a great piece of writing," or "What a great story," or "What a great piece of something that has, altered or changed my life to some degree." So, who do you know? Let me go back to the first one. How do you know who to trust? Well, anytime you put out work or when you write, especially on the computer, if you're worried about copyright issues or anything like that, when you save your work on a computer, that's a date stamp on there of when you saved it or when you created the work. You can also go to the U.S. Copyright Office, and if you feel really you really want some additional protection, you can go and get download the copyright forms uh, download the copyright forms online, fill them out, print out your work, mail it to the Library of Congress, you get your copyright stamp. And then that way, you don't have to worry about this underlining fear that someone's going to steal your work or do something with your work and run away with what you may consider to be, the best writing, since, Ichabod Crane was created, or Sleepy Hollow, or A Christmas Carol was created. So, you can get it copyrighted that way, but really the date stamp on your computer, on your file when you save it, should suffice. And besides, no one else can tell a story like you. It's your work. The other thing with who should read it, this is really an audience question of like, who are you writing it for? I mean, if you're writing a children's book, do you necessarily want someone, who's 80 years old reading it? Is that something they're really going to be interested in, or are you going to want younger people to read it? And that's what you do. You find someone who's younger that can read it. You got to find the audience for your work, and that's another thing that writers often have to think about that they forget. Like, who is the audience for this book? Who am I writing this book for? Who is my ideal reader? And that's a question you have to answer for yourself. Who is my ideal reader? And then you search out that ideal reader. Now, when you give somebody your work to read, it's up to you. You're opening yourself up. You're being a little bit vulnerable there, and so don't. What I would caution against: don't give your work to somebody to read just so that they can come back and say, "Oh, that's great. Oh, I like the story." That's really not going to help you. Whenever I give someone my work to read, I like for them to say, if I ask someone to read my work, I say, I want you to bloody it up. I want you to point out all of my errors, all of my mistakes. If I say on page 3 blue sedan, and then I get to page 25, I said red sedan, I need you to point that out to me, because in the writing process, I missed that. That may be one of the little details I missed. And also, I don't like to give my stuff to somebody to read and then they just return it to me and just say, "Okay, it was great." That's not helping me. Not at all. However, if I give my work to somebody to read and they bring it back to me and they got notes in the margins and they got little markings all over the place, that is going to help me, because that means that they really read this work, they really dove deep into it, and they're really, helping me to bring out what's best in the story, or helping to point out where things got a little confusing in the storyline, or where it says, oh, I got lost on this part, you may need to clear this up or get more clarity on this particular part of the narrative. Now that is helpful. So that is the kind of reader that you want to give your work to. Anyway, I hope that's been helpful. Until next time.